Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to discuss the true nature of Oneitis that no one ever talks about. Nope. We've all know of Oneitis. We've had a buddy who's been there. Perhaps we've been there ourselves. You know, what's interesting about Oneitis is no matter how much we think we may know about women and relationships and how men properly relate with women, when you're in Oneitis, when your buddy's in Oneitis, when we try to shake ourselves or him out of it, it never works. It never seems to work. Only after the fact, after they have perhaps sobered up. Like your buddy was drunk or on some kind of drugs, which may indicate the true nature of Oneitis that no one really talks about. I mean, what's the main misconception with Oneitis that I see promulgated everywhere from a lot of dating pickup artist gurus? By the way, I think these guys have a lot of helpful information. And I think if you have any problems with dating, but when it comes to understanding psychologically what's going on and ultimately how to solve certain fundamental issues, they come up short. But in their defense, a lot of psychologists would come up short as well. This speaks to a lacuna, a blind spot, a point of awareness that we lack in our psychology. But back to the main misconception that a lot of guys have when it comes to Oneitis is they think that a guy who has Oneitis simply desires a girl too much. By the way, this is based on a question from a viewer, and I think he asked me, why is it that men have it more than women, in part? And just as an aside, you know, men probably have it more than women. It's not some cultural programming that men have since 1978. You know, the misandry out there, as a typical men's rights activist would tell you, I think this is based on our biology, that men are less biologically valuable than women. Are they morally valuable? Are they morally less valuable, or intellectually, or are they less valuable as humans? No, of course not. That's silly. But we can be mature about this and nuanced and understand context and realize that women are simply more valuable biologically, especially when they're younger. I mean, only when they're younger, or during any kind of breeding age. So I think that's why guys tend to get it more. They tend to get latched on because it's more important. It's more important for a guy to be with a girl at a certain age than for a girl to be with a guy from an evolutionary perspective. Girls way more options in a sense. So the main misconception is that a guy simply desires a girl. And that's what we think. Oh, he has too much of a crush on her. He likes her too much. He desires her too much. He has a need for her that she fulfills. And this is simply not the case. It's almost the case, but it's not the case. In truth, he needs her. So I guess it is a need in a sense, but he needs her not because he needs her, not because she's going to make his life better, but because she's going to make his life not as bad. Right? There is a pain there. There is some existential dread, some existential strife that he is going through, and it's like an addiction. Like if your buddy's an alcoholic or a drug addict, same thing with women. We think this substance out there, this being out there, is going to fix us, which is a subtle distinction, but it is very important. And I wouldn't even bring this up. It probably wouldn't even matter, except based on this flawed view of Oneitis, guys receive a lot of bad advice about what to do about it. So if you go in and think Oneitis is caused by a guy having too many needs or having a need or desire that's too strong, what would be the advice? What we typically hear: well, don't be needy. Don't be so desirous. Go meet other girls. And the worst thing that can happen from this kind of advice is that it works. You have a crush on a girl and she doesn't like you, she probably friend zoned you, and you're not even dating her, right? You just hang out with her and hope something's simply going to happen. Of course, the longer you hang out with her, the less likely things are going to happen, and the more, quite honestly, repulsed she's going to be by you. So yeah, the advice is to not be needy, and then you go out and meet other girls, and this is like telling a drug addict to use other drugs, in a sense. Well, just don't need the drug that you have. Oh, well, how can I fix that? Well, go use other drugs. This doesn't solve the fundamental issue. The problem is this works. A man then has a difficult time managing his own needs, what they are, and then he has a difficult time developing an identity, developing an emotional regulation because of that, and now he is in a less disadvantageous position to go out and create a true emotional connection with a girl later on, when he's in his later 20s and 30s and 40s. And then his relationship with women is just one of constant strife because he never managed the issue. Like, you can tell a heroin addict, oh, go on methadone, and that works, and that's better, and it's safer, especially because, well, only because, to be quite honest, methadone is controlled. There's no impurities in it because you go pick it up from the clinic, and this is a good management of the heroin addiction. But there is an issue there that the heroin addict, that the guy who has Oneitis, simply isn't solving. And these interests, it's just gonna, the interest on this debt, this interest on the psychological debt, it's going to keep compounding, and it will come back to bite you. And as I talk up here, I understand. If you're a 20-year-old guy or 25-year-old guy, you're listening to me and you think, what's this guy talking about? Who even cares? And I can appreciate that. And if you're not hearing me right now, that's fine, and I wouldn't criticize you. It's not my job here to fix everybody. I just want to come on this channel and speak some truth to what our psychology is and how it operates. But if you are listening to me, I do think that this can be a really important issue for you to manage your own needs and to learn how to get those needs met. And I would argue that a lot of this comes from the management of anger. Then you can have what looks like Oneitis for a girl, and it's actually well reciprocated, at least more often. If you truly desire a girl, not because you're using her, but because you truly want her, because she truly is an object of your affection, then she's much more likely to respond positively. And I've seen guys who've done this, who have what we would call Oneitis, who are doing, quote, everything wrong. They're going after one girl, they're calling her, and you would think, oh, this isn't going to work because he has Oneitis. No, it works because it works more often because it comes from the proper intention. Of course, this isn't just about girls. Like my metaphor about drugs. This isn't just about girls. An apt metaphor, a biologically apt metaphor, by the way. This is about learning to distinguish between a healthy need and an unhealthy need. Often I get asked the question, I talk about needs a lot, I talk about anger a lot. Often I get the question, well, how can I tell the difference between a want and a need? And my response is, there is no difference. That difference is based on, or the belief that there is that difference is based on, low self-esteem, scarcity mentality. Why would a want not be important? Because you want it? You can rationalize away any want or any need to a want, and any want to you don't really need it. Do you even need to be alive? You don't need to be alive, but you want to be alive. Do you need a girlfriend? No, you don't need a girlfriend, but you want a girlfriend. That's enough. To make that distinction is based on the scarcity mentality. It's based on anxiety. It's based on the belief that if you have a need, it necessarily takes away from the need of others, and it is fundamentally not true. So I get asked that question a lot, and my response is there's no difference, right? The only distinction here that's worth mentioning, not just with women or with anything that you want or need, is the distinction between a healthy need and an unhealthy need. A healthy need is a need that you truly want because you want it. An unhealthy need is a need that you have because you think if you get it, it's going to fix some problem in you. And how do we distinguish between these two? Well, we got to regulate our emotions. We got to learn exactly how our emotions work. We need to regulate them. And that's what we work on here at Animus. We do free consultations. animusempire.com/schedule. And if you have a question for me, animus@animusempire.com. Thank you guys. Like and subscribe. And remember that your need is only as helpful as the regulation it rests upon.